The show you're about to hear is a member of the Plains Talkers Podcast Network. To find out more, go to plainstalkerspodcast.com.
Plenty of decks don't get to draw 3 cards for 1 mana.
Well, I mean, all the good ones do. If you're not playing MH2, are you even trying?
Right.
Doomsday Pass. Witherbloom Command. Mill 3 cards. Good luck. Hi, I'm Jake.
And I'm Matt.
And we are Cantrip Cartel. We're proud members of the Planestalkers Podcasting Network. Our mothership show, the Planestalkers Podcast, records on Twitch on Mondays for their Wednesday release. And on Wednesday, they also stream Commandercraft on Twitch. As a bit of a surprise, Matt and I are going to be on the Commandercraft stream on Wednesday, the 24th, for their holiday episode. We're really excited to bring in maybe some mid-tier power decks and maybe even some more powerful decks for some secondary games. Hey, what do you think, Matt? You excited?
I'm very excited. I'm going to school these guys on how to play EDH.
Yep. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Check it out at the Planestalkers podcast channel on Twitch. Like I said, November 28th, around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be a lot of fun, and a lot of jokes will be told, and noobs, whether that be us or them, will be crushed.
Yep. One way or the other.
One way or the other. So other than that, Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a big thank you to a couple people. Number one being Julian. He came on our podcast last week. I had a great time. I was super nervous, which you may or may not have been able to tell.
We both were pretty nervous.
Yeah, he's just been a long time guru to me, even though we didn't know it. That was, first time we had met and spoke. Had a great time. So thanks to him. I want to thank Jake for setting that up. He 100% took the initiative on that. I had no idea. It was a big surprise for me. And I want to thank you guys. This has been going far better than we expected. And that only happens because people listen. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to thank you guys. I mean, I look forward to recording every week because we have a great audience. We're getting good interaction with you guys. It's just been a great time.
This is the typical, this show doesn't exist without you, person listening right now. And it means a lot that we get to produce a product that you guys then get to enjoy.
I look forward to it every week.
Yep. It's one of those things that we were kind of scared of it becoming a chore. It's always fun when it's new. Everything you do when it's brand new is fun. You start a new job and it's fun. And, after the first week, the second month, the third month, things kind of start to get dull and they get it becomes a job. And this hasn't become a job yet. It's still, I wake up Tuesday morning when we record, excited to grab my bag, get my stuff packed up. Can't wait to get done with work, come over, see Matt, sit and talk about Magic for a couple hours.
I've heard this a lot. I've never played it. But one of the things people that play fantasy football have always told me is it makes football interesting again, mm-hmm. because it gets you invested again. And this podcast has really dialed Magic up a lot for me, where I'm excited to check the news because I'm checking it every day. I'm reading forums every day. I'm burying myself in Magic, A, because I'm interested in it, but B, because it gives me something to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. I spend every week, several hours a day prepping for the podcast just to, so I don't come on here and sound like an idiot. We want to be able to speak intelligently as well as we can on the topics we discuss. So it's really kind of just, it's lit a fire under me as far as Matt.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's just all I want to say as far as getting going.
While we're doing plugs before we cover our last week, I do want to give a shout out to my brother-in-law, Johnny, has a really cool Twitch channel, and he reps us on his channel all the time. And so I told him I like watching his channel. It's called Green Bean Guardian on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Green Bean Guardian. It's the kind of stuff that I think a lot of our fans would watch. It's mostly retro games.
Yep.
He plays lots of really cool retro games. Some of the old Pokemon games. He's played Animal Crossing. A lot of stuff, Guilty Gear, a lot of stuff I don't recognize because I wasn't alive when it came out. But he just has a really fun, positive community he's kind of cultivated. And anyone who's looking for more, Twitch-related content they want to check out, he streams 3 or 4 days a week. And I want to give him a shout out. He's a good guy, and he puts up a good show.
I love retro games. At this point, I think most of our listeners probably know that about me.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I've kind of dialed back Diablo 2 a little bit. I've been playing Gloomhaven some more. A buddy of mine
online.
Gloomhaven Digital on Steam went live. Been playing that a lot.
Because we played Gloomhaven quite a bit in physical. Yeah. You own the physical game. I wouldn't say for 4 or 5 months we had to every Sunday play Gloomhaven.
We got pretty far into it.
I think we all maxed out.
We were all either level 8 or level 9. bard levels very quick. Soothsinger.
Well, I'm like your wife and my wife have both started new characters.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we obviously haven't beaten the game, but we got our hours in.
Yep, so
and now you've picked it up on the online version.
Yep. Now we kind of pivoted to the digital version, and it really takes the worst part about Gloomhaven out of the game. So Gloomhaven it's not as complex as Magic as far as the rules go, but as far as a board game goes, it's almost like playing a game of Magic. Like it's a very detailed, like there's monster AI that dictates how the monsters work. And in the board game, you have to manually do all that stuff. And that can kind of bog games down. So like running a dungeon will take an hour or more because you have to move all the monsters and stuff. The digital version does all that for you. It sets up the board. It automates all the cards that flip. Like you just...
It's kind of like Arena.
Yeah.
Like Magic can be a clunky game with a lot of things happening, and Arena just stacks it all up on the right side of the screen and makes it happen.
With Magic, like the difference in paper is like you want to know that stuff because the rules are very important to winning, because being able to effectively use the rules in your favor with the way card interactions work is a big part of the game. With Gloomhaven, it's the opposite. You want to be able to play the game, but the rules often get in the So like if you flip a couple cards and you have advantage, did you know, Jake, if you have advantage and you have rolling cards in your card deck, this is going to go over a lot of people's heads, you can actually critically miss with advantage in Gloomhaven.
Does it consider any buff you hit with a roll superior to the other hit?
If there's ambiguity, the game actually has a mechanism to decide rather than letting the player decide.
Gotcha.
So like advantage isn't always a good thing.
Yeah.
So like weird, so like stuff like that.
To break down what he's talking about, in the game you flip a deck and that describes how much extra damage you do essentially.
Yep.
And if you have advantage, you get to flip 2 of these cards. So one card might say +1 point of damage and one card might say +2. But essentially with some weird modifiers in the deck that have you flip extra cards, you can flip a +1. And then on your second roll, flip a certain card that has you flip another card, flip a critical miss, and now you've missed even though you had...
Yeah, even though you have advantage.
Because of weird rules interactions.
Yep.
I'm sure something everyone can relate to on this podcast.
Yep, and it's one of the things where playing Gloomhaven is kind of like playing middle school Magic, where no one actually plays the rules correctly. Because there's so many rules. Like if I told you have advantage, so you get to flip 2 cards and pick the better of them, in your head, critically missing is never the better one, right? Yep. Well, within the game, within the rules of the game, that's not necessarily true. So it's just been nice to get all that background stuff out of the way and play what is effectively a very good tactics game.
Yeah.
So you have,
it's turn by turn.
It's turn by turn combat. You have a field with these are hexagonal spaces and whatnot. So we don't need to go, super in deep with Gloomhaven, but the Gloomhaven Digital really allows it. It has elevated the game.
And I will say, at least the paper version, because that's what I've played, is a very fun and thought-provoking game once you learn the rule set.
Yeah, Gloomhaven is like D&D super light. There's not as many rules. The characters aren't as complex. You don't have as much customization.
I would say as far as difficulty goes, think more like a Dark Souls game.
Correct. It can be very punishing and difficult.
Yes. But the mechanics can be very D&D-esque. And there's magic and spells and whatnot.
The cool thing is so a lot of people, it's more like running like the pre-built scenarios in D&D than it is like having your GM make his own. So, there's scenarios, there's a pre-written storyline that you read through. So like you're playing through Gloomhaven and there are characters you're interacting with. It's kind of like doing those, forget what they're called in D&D. Play D&D much. Modules, I guess.
Modules,
yeah. So you Castle Ravenloft or whatever it is, like that's a module.
Yeah. Yeah, like a pre-bought book, and it runs you through it.
Very similar to that, with just different rules.
They're almost all like they're pre-established scenarios, and a lot of times you're drawing from a random deck for like road encounters or things like that. A lot of randomness happens, but it's all kind of scripted a little bit behind it.
So check out Gloomhaven. But yeah, how about you, Jake? What do you do? What do you do this week?
As far as me this week, I got back into rock climbing, and I'm really excited about that.
You're gonna lose that gut.
That's the goal. Me and my wife, on our first date, actually went rock climbing. It was a weird sequence of events that left me making a trip to Indy by myself. And I had recently met my wife at a party, and she lived in Indy. And so she agreed to come out with me. And we went and had a wonderful time climbing. She fell in love with climbing. We started to fall in love with each other. We quickly started climbing a lot together. And then COVID came in, and that wasn't soon after that, but COVID came in and kind of locked climbing down.
Yep.
Climbing is a relatively dirty thing where we're all next to each other, breathing really hard inside.
And there's only, if you're lucky, one place in your town that will have a rock climbing wall.
Yeah, rock climbing, especially in Indiana, isn't like super duper popular to where it's everywhere.
Because it's literally flat. There's nowhere to go. You got to leave the state to go rock
Speaking
climbing.
of weird things, did you know it is illegal in Indiana to rock climb outside?
I did not. That's kind of funny.
If you find a mountain out, it's illegal. Rock climbing is on the books illegal. But when COVID came through and shut everything down, rock climbing is one of the first things to go and one of the last things to come back because there's no way to do rock climbing in a way that is COVID responsible.
Yep.
It's very physically taxing.
You can't be wearing a mask.
Wearing a mask is absurd. And on top of, we're just sweaty and touching the same holds and the same rope. And so it was gone. And it was one of those things where we just can't do it. And it is what it is. And we ended up finding out that one of our local gyms is opened back up. They've actually opened up under new management, which is really cool. I used to climb at the Purdue wall a lot, and I knew almost everybody there. I was there 5 days a week sometimes. One of the guys who used to manage the Purdue wall has bought this company.
Oh, that's
this
cool.
This climbing wall. Changed a lot of it, cleaned a lot of it up, has changed a lot of the rules systems about it, and got it to kind of mirror the way the Purdue wall was run, which was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And has quickly cultivated a very tight group of people that climb there. So we went there for the first time on like Thursday or whatever, climbed there for like 2 hours, immediately bought memberships. We went back Sunday, had a blast. So it's going to be a regular thing for us. And so I'm really excited to get back into climbing and just make it a part of my regular life again. I'll probably never get back to as good as I was for any climbers out there. I used to do indoor climbing around like 11A, 11B. And that was with, climbing 4 or 5 days a week and doing workouts on the off days. I mean, you remember, I used to talk about, I would climb like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And then the off days, I would do pull-ups and
do pull-ups with your fingertips. And
fingertip pull-ups and ab workouts on the off days. And I will probably not be doing that intensive workouts anymore, but hopefully we'll see how far we can get back. I'd like to get back into the high 10s, 10Bs, 10Cs. Matt, was there anything else you wanted to cover through our daily life?
No, I think we're ready to hop into the
Gotcha.
The challenges for this week.
Challenges? You have 2 challenges for Legacy?
Well, I have one.
Oh, okay.
You have 2.
Yeah.
So, nope.
How's Legacy looking, Matt?
This has got to be one of the worst results. It's the top 32 we've seen in a while.
Gotcha.
We've got 7 blue-red Delver decks. There's a variation. There's now Zoomer Delver and regular blue-red Delver. And we'll go over that in a minute.
I don't write it off because they're pretty different now.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're different in the sense that they drop a card and pick up a different card. That's the fundamental change. They play differently.
They play very differently.
I'm not denying that, but when we're talking
about...
The
deck structure is similar. I get you.
When we're talking about 3 of the 4 cards that are arguably bannable, they each run...
Oh, yeah, of course.
They each run 3.
Yeah.
We basically we swap DRC for Urza Saga and try to play a different game.
If you're not playing MH2, are you even trying?
Right. And then on top of that, we've got another 3 Jeskai Rat.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 of the top 32 at minimum are running the Modern Horizon 2 threats.
Yep.
So this is...
So our new podcast is going to be Modern Horizon Cartel.
Yep.
And we'll be releasing episodes on Wednesdays.
Right. We'll call it Monkey Cartel.
Monkey Cartel. There you go.
So we'll just go through the list like we always do. Jeskai Ragavan 1. Again, these are pretty standard
one of Julian's
lists.
favorite decks.
Yep.
And in my opinion, probably one of the superior lists. I've always been on the bandwagon that I thought Jeskai was the most powerful.
Jeskai Ragavan allows you to run all 5 of the broken cards.
Yep.
So you've got Ragavan, DRC, Murktide, Urza Saga, and Prismatic End.
I think Urza Saga is a little wishy-washy in there because the mana base is a little stretched, but...
Most of them still run it. It's just the upside is too big. Every now and then you'll get wasted out or whatever.
Yeah. You get the option to run as many broken cards. And, don't forget Expressive Iteration, Force of Negation.
The beautiful thing about it to me is like, it doesn't really matter if Urza Saga stretches your mana base that much, because if they're wasting your Volcanic Island, you just play Urza Saga.
Yeah.
So, like...
Just for fun, because again, we talked with Julian about how expensive these decks are. Do you have the deck pulled up?
I have the tabletop price. It's $6,500.
Yeah, I was going to say, could you,
Again, these prices vary. So, between 10 and 20%, depending on who you buy it from or whatever.
$5,500 to $7,000.
Yeah, this is a Jeskai Ragavan, $6,500, 820 tickets.
Yeah.
Like, it's just throw the best cards you can possibly get into one deck, and then obviously win with it. Next up, we've got Blue-Red Delver, the aggro version.
Yep.
So it's just the 3 best threats, no Urza Saga.
Probably your typical tempo.
Yes.
Like, is it tempo?
Is it tempo?
Okay.
After that, we've got somewhat spicy Bant. We've seen subtle variations of this.
I was excited
times.
about this.
So we've got, it's a blue, white, green control list.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of running some of the typical cards, we've got 4 Exploration, 4 Life from the Loam, and Wasteland in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird to me to see Daze and Life from the Loam in the same deck.
Yep. Well, don't forget the 4 Urza Saga and the 2 Retrofitter Foundries.
Their threat suite is Urza Saga and Uro.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Urza Saga grabbing you, Retrofitter Foundry, and then you've got Uro. That's it. And it's running days.
Yep.
Like that to me is just, he's obviously doing well. There's so many powerful cards in Legacy right now that it's almost seems like within reason you can just kind of like puzzle them together and be like, well, I'm playing again another super powerful card in Uro. We've got Prismatic Ending. We've got Brainstorm Ponder, obviously.
Yep. I mean, Life from the Loam and Urza Saga were made to be played together.
Correct. Life from the Loam and Urza Saga is ridiculous. Life from the Loam and Wasteland is ridiculous, especially given the current format, the way the format's shaken out.
And if you think about it, Life from the Loam draws you 2 potential win cons.
Yeah.
And that dredging Life from the Loam can hit an Uro or an Urza Saga.
It's very strong in the deck.
Now you are sprinting through your deck.
Another interesting thing about it, the deck did not main board any Force of Wills. It's got 4 Force of Wills and 2 Force of Negation in the side. I'm not sure if plan A is to just lose to combo decks.
We got days.
In game 1.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you beat something like Storm or whatever, or Show and Tell.
Yep. So I think...
But games 2 and 3, you've got 6 forces.
I think you're just dodging it. I think your plan... I think...
It's a combination of dodging it and then...
This deck's plan is to play Jeskai, or is it Ragavan Delver? And I was looking at the list, and I thought it was really funny that all the forces are in the side, and I bet they stay there for most of your matchups because...
Yeah, you bring them in for the combo deck.
There's so few spells in this deck that are even worth countering.
Right.
I mean, yes, counter my Uro. I will play it again in 2 turns.
Yeah, I don't need to protect it.
Yep.
All its threats are recursive.
Yes.
So I'm not using my Force of Will to protect my Uro. I'm going to let you hit it with whatever you're going to do to it and then recast it.
Yeah, I'll let you go down a card.
Yeah.
Or 2 cards, and then because that's a 2 for 0 because my Uro's still there waiting.
Yep.
Life from the Loam, unless you have Force Negation. Yes, hitting my Life from the Loam it sets me back a turn, but I'm going to get it back next turn. You're still going down on cards. It's hilarious that Force Negation and Force of Will just don't really mesh well in this main board because you're not fighting over anything. You're not using those to defend any of your stuff. Now you'll use it to stop their degenerativeness, but you're not scared at all to protect your stuff for the most part. Now, obviously, if you could have a Force of Will to protect that Swords to Plowshares, I mean that.
Yeah.
Yes, that
Force of Will is still a very good card.
The ceiling is high, but obviously, we will give credit where credit is due for this spicy list. It's not Thalia, it's Thalia misspelled. Really did a good job kind of realizing his deck isn't wanting to fight on going down on cards. This is a card advantage machine. And so we just cut him out altogether into the side. So that's a really cool list. I talked to Matt about with Eternal Weekend coming up. I've been on the side kind of brewing a Jeskai back to basics deck, which probably won't see Eternal Weekend, but it'd be cool if I could get it tuned in time. And if I didn't, I was probably going to run a Bant control list. So I like playing Jeskai, I like playing Esper, I like playing Bant, but I didn't, and I think Bant is probably the most powerful of the 3-color control list, but I really didn't like how slow they were. Now, the lists have been changing a lot recently, but when I think of the Bant control list, I was thinking of the lists that were like regularly using Endurance to shuffle their own graveyard in. And if that's something you have to strongly consider, like you just need better threats. I don't like a deck that is that bad at winning sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
I like to close out games quickly.
Yes. And this deck embodies that with just more ways to close out games and more ways to find them.
Yep.
Where, your Brainstorm may find 1 or 2 of your things. Your Ponder may find your Uro, but Life from the Loam is going to find Uro and Urza Saga, maybe in the same turn.
Right.
So that was really cool. I really like seeing this list. I'm sorry, Matt.
You're fine. It's a good deck. Next up, we've got 4-color Zenith. This is a deck we kind of talked about a little bit last week with Julian. There's a lot of meat in this. So
this is the meat pie.
The meat pie
of Legacy.
Yep. You're always drawing cards you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look for anything particular. Just draw good cards and play them.
I think I agree with Julian that I probably wouldn't enjoy playing this as much because I like having a plan to follow.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a good stuff pile where everything you draw is relatively good and you're going to make the most of it you can, but probably not my style of deck, but a cool deck.
After that, in 5th, we've got Jeskai Ragavan. And then we've got Doomsday. No surprise there. Doomsday's probably one of the best combo decks. Currently, it's very clearly the best combo deck.
I think so. I think Doomsday and Elves fall under the decks that they are probably some of the best decks in the format, almost bar none, as far as like combo E-style goes, but they're too hard for the majority of people to play. And it's one of those things that most people, and I'll throw my hat in this ring, are not excited to lose with a deck 40 times in a row to start figuring it out. And that's kind of what I've played a little bit of Doomsday and I played a little bit of Elves. you got to do a lot of losing before you realize where all your mistakes are. The alternative would be, I guess, if you watched 20 hours of Doomsday content on YouTube or Twitch. But short of that, it takes time.
Yep.
And that's what keeps people out of it.
That's how you actually start. I mean, that's basically what I did with elves. Before I played my first game with elves, I had watched every video I could.
Who'd you always watch?
That Julian guy.
Oh, that Julian guy. Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to get to talk to him.
And then I started playing because it was just like, obviously, and I'm goldfishing there and I'm analyzing his matchups and whatnot. What I was doing is I'd watch him play and I'd try to predict what he was going to do and how the game was going to go. And once I got to the point where I was accurately predicting what was going to happen, that's when I knew I was ready to start actually like really playing it and, go into tournaments and get my reps in.
Yep.
But
it takes time.
And to be perfectly honest, I think it's rude to go to a tournament and not have any idea how to play your deck.
Yeah.
That's slow play. I can't stand it. Like you don't have to be the best Magic player in the world, but you don't get to show up with a complicated deck and not know what you're tutoring for when you.
Yeah.
Like people, you shouldn't be wasting people's time in a game where we share a clock.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Is it's not it isn't the chess clock online. It's the round is over in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so you don't get to slow play your opponents because you wanted to learn how to play elves.
And Doomsday can easily be a slow play deck where building those Doomsday piles is hard.
Absolutely.
But again, a really powerful deck that not a lot of people play.
After that, in sixth place was Doomsday. Seventh place, we've got a Bug Amalgam. This thing.
Is this Bug Meat Pie? No, it's running Counterbalance. What is this?
It's running Counterbalance, Daze, Hymn to Turok, Witherbloom Command, Assassin's Trophy.
In the main.
All in the main, along with Leovold, Tarmogoyf, Brazen Barrow, and Jace. This looks like an EDH deck.
This is Bug Trade Binder.
Yes. So this list is bonkers. And I can see how it would win games. I mean, every single one of those cards we talked about.
Did you say Spell Pierce?
Yes, absolutely.
2 Spell Pierce in the main.
2 Spell Pierce in the main.
Guys, Spell Pierce is playable again.
I don't know what you would call this. It's obviously Bug mid-range. Counterbalance is that good with Brainstorm.
This is just Brainstorm 2 Wastelands.
Yeah, I know. So this deck's crazy.
Yeah.
So good on you, Gennardi.
This strikes me again as a meat pie deck where like each one of these cards individually is probably good to have in your hand. I mean, it's rarely bad to have a Ponder or have an Assassin's Trophy or a Hymn to Turok or an Edict or Witherbloom Command. Witherbloom Command, a lot of people probably don't know. I've played against it and I've played with it. And a deceptively powerful card.
Yep. Elves is starting to pick it up in the sideboard.
It's pretty much guaranteed to be a 2-for-1. So you had that Culligan Command effect. Now it's a black and a green at sorcery speed. So there's definitely some drawbacks there, but you get to choose 2. So it's the command style. Target player mills 3 cards, and then you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, obviously, there's almost always a land card in this graveyard.
I mean, at minimum, fetches.
Yeah, you're fetching all the kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's your floor. Your floor is getting a fetch
back. So you're getting a card back. And you and super spicy tech against Doomsday. They cannot pass. That'd be so funny. Doomsday pass. Witherbloom Command. Mill 3 cards. Good luck. So destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with CMC 2 or less, which is most of them.
Yep.
Now you can't hit Thalia, you can't hit creatures, and that's the big one. But you can hit most of the onboard hate you ever want to worry about in a deck. Whether that be
the big thing you can hit Urza, you can hit stuff. Not Urza Saga, but the artifacts it's fetching out.
Whatever Urza Saga gets, you can hit things like Rest in Peace. You can hit things like Pithing Needle. There's a lot of relevant targets.
There's a bunch of targets.
And there isn't always going to be one, but that's why it's one of 4 options.
Right.
You can give target creature -3/-1 until end of turn, which kills a lot of relevant creatures in the meta.
That's how you're killing most of your actual creatures.
Yeah. Again, Thalia, gone.
Anything from
Unflip
elves.
Delver, Unflip Undone DRC, Ragavan. Most of the stuff in Legacy that comes down early in the game is an X1 and it's gone. Or you can have target opponent lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. Obviously, nobody wants that, not particularly, but that's your floor.
Yeah, that's
your floor
is
a 4 life swing. And I mean, I don't know how much Legacy you've played. There's been plenty of times where 2 life was the difference between winning and losing. So a really cool, flexible card that did not see a lot of love when Strixhaven came out and is finally starting to work its way back in. Not back in, work its way in for the first time.
It's got Plague Engineer. Get out of here.
Yeah. For the first time in months, we've seen...
You guys aren't supposed to be playing black.
Plague Engineer's making it back in. Well, they've got to run Plague Engineer because who came in 8th place?
Yeah, next up, we've got Elves.
Yep. And you know why he didn't win?
He probably played
because
Plague
guy had Plague Engineer.
Yeah, I know. Well, don't get me wrong. He absolutely should be playing Plague Engineer. I just don't like it.
Yep.
So stop it.
Yep.
This elves list in particular is got a couple spicy things in it. So it's not. People have been splashing white in elves for Archon of Valor's Reach for a while now. That's not uncommon. It's a very good card. You basically take out a Craterhoof Behemoth, and that's your other natural order target. The cool thing about Archon is he's far easier to Green Sun Zenith out.
Archon's probably weird enough. What's Archon do? People might not know
Archon
that.
of Valor's Reach is 4 generic, 1 green and 1 white for a 5/6 flying vigilance trample. When it enters the battlefield, choose artifact, enchantment, instant, sorcery, or planeswalker. Players can't cast spells of the chosen type.
Gotcha.
So there's all kinds of instances in which that is relevant. If you're playing against most storm lists, a resolved sorcery with sorcery is just game over in game 1. It's great against control lists. You basically pick what you would lose to. They can't cast it. There's all kinds of things to do. The biggest thing, though, is this card. It's so good in grindy, man. Like, if you can just combo off quickly, you're going to get Craterhoof anyways. But when you can go, hey, I'm going to make a 5/6, and, you only run... Let's see, you've got Swords to Plowshares and Prismatic Ending. So Prismatic Ending realistically isn't going to hit it. So I'm going to name Instant, and you don't have a way to deal with this card.
It's not realistically. It literally can't. This is 6 CMC.
That's what I mean. Like, you can't kill it with Prismatic Ending, so I don't need to name Sorcery. You've only got Swords. I'm going to name Instant.
Yep.
And now I have a 5/6 Flying Vigilance Trample that you can't kill.
Yeah, presumably something like a 3-turn clock.
Correct.
And I've removed your removal spells.
Very good in those matchups that go long. That's one of the reasons why, on top of all the, like, if it didn't have the utility aspect of it, again, I don't think it would see as much play, obviously, but the combination of all those things together make it a reasonable alternative to Craterhoof. Now, once you've splashed white, that does open up your sideboard slot a little bit. This guy has, instead of running, this actually is spicy. There's no discard in his sideboard. That is pretty unusual.
He's got black entirely.
Correct. So we've got, other than Leyline of the Void, which again, you don't typically cast.
True.
So you can in Elves. It has actually happened multiple times with me where it's just like, well, getting to 4 mana is not that hard in Elves.
Yep.
So,
and you got things like Birchlore Rangers that give you access to black.
I've hard cast Progenitus before. It's sweet. It's not, it's pretty rare, but I
shouldn't say cut black. They do have a grist in the main.
Yeah, like it's still got some black in there, but the primary cards that they're running black for, Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy's kind of fallen out of favor, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, that kind of thing. And they've cut almost all of that. So we've got Deafening Silence, Swords to Plowshares as those are the white cards for your sideboard. Then we've got Endurance, Force of Vigor, Graveyard Hate, Artifact Hate, that kind of stuff.
Can you tell Matt's an Elves player as he goes through card by card the Elf deck in 8th?
Hey, we talked about all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely.
Well, this is actually, like, it's not very often where people do well with like major changes to an established deck. So this is notable. His sideboard has 3 cards in it that mine does. Like that's a big change. 12 card change.
Because the Elves sideboard is usually relatively stacked.
Right. So we've got Progenitus and Layla and 2 Leyline of the Void. Those are the only 3 cards in his sideboard that has that mine. So this is a really interesting list. I'm going to be curious if this kind of thing has legs. Nice thing is I already have my Savannah. I used to run the Archon build for a while. I never splashed white. I never used the white for like a lot of sideboarding cards. And I'm just I like the upside of the discard more because there's aside from like picking off their one thing, I like seeing their hand, all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot of Thoughtseize is a great card. I don't like giving it up. That's basically what it boils down. So yeah, we've got some, and it does have Bajuka Bog in the main.
Well, we have the Reclaimer package in place of the Nano Sentinels.
Correct. So
and with that comes a fetch board of lands.
Correct. So we're not not leaning as hard into the glimpse kill, and instead we're going to have a little bit better of the grindy. Just a great, interesting list.
Yeah, that's cool. You want to give us a quick run through of some of the relevant cards? Do like top 5s because they're probably the same.
So we'll do the decks real quick. Again, Izzet Delver got 7 of the top 32. Jeskai Ragavan with another 3, so a total of 10 really abusing the Modern Horizon 2 threats. Elves has 3 copies, so that's the next highest individual deck. Most played cards. This is going to sound real familiar here. Brainstorm.
Firster, Ponder.
Yeah. We got Brainstorm, Force of Will, Ponder, Ragavan, Swords to Plowshares.
Yep. Hey, Day's gotten 6th, not 2nd.
Yeah. Well, Days is starting to see almost absurd levels of play. It'd be one thing with Days if tempo decks were everywhere, and that's why it was seeing play. Daze is in like a bunch of combo decks, a bunch of control decks now, mid-rangey decks. It's just I think people are starting to see the power of Daze beyond what it can be used for in a tempo
I was
shell.
always of the opinion that Daze is just one of those like free counterspells that should go in everything. And you kind of always locked me back that it has a place in tempo decks because there's a real cost to picking a land
There
up.
are.
And there are. But with the power of Magic increasing, it's becoming worth the cost.
Correct. Well, I think that's what's happening is the first 2 turns of Legacy are more important now than they've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to get your opponent with a Daze is super important.
Yeah.
Be prepared to be dazed by more than just tempo decks. It's basically what it boils down to. Creatures, this should come as no surprise to anyone. Ragavan, Murktide Regent, Dragon Rage Chandler, Elvish Reclaimer, Endurance.
Mm-hmm.
Spells are basically the same top 5. Brainstorm, Force Will, Ponder, Swords, Daze.
Yep.
The one thing we have, I can't not mention that. Brainstorm is in 69% of the decks in the top 32.
And nice.
Force of Will's in 66. Ponder's in 66. And we've been seeing some of these numbers similar to that. But like, it's getting to the point where, like, I mean, we named our podcast Cantrip Cartel. I know Brainstorm's not going anywhere. Something needs to be done. It needs to be viable to play a non-blue fair deck in Legacy. And it just isn't. So we don't need to go into it, but it just isn't really viable to play a non-blue fair deck if you're playing competitive. And that needs to change.
That's on average. You know, obviously D&T goes out and wins. Elves goes out and wins.
Right.
But on average...
Well, Elves I would consider a non-fair deck. I mean, I'm trying to natural order.
That's true.
D&T is the one deck that's specifically designed to beat those decks. Yeah. So like those are your 2 big ones.
Yep. The community has spoken, and it's leaning towards Brainstorm.
And it has, obviously, it's Brainstorm. We all know when we're talking about this stuff that what that card does, how prevalent it is, how powerful it is. We know that it's not going anywhere. But for the love of God, can we do something so like somebody could play a Maverick deck? I mean, could you imagine showing up in this field with Maverick?
No.
Now, don't get me wrong. People play similar lists. They look on the surface similar, but they're running Dark Depths. Mm-hmm. Like Maverick didn't used to run Dark Depths. It's green-white Depths.
They need a combo package.
Right, because you can't out-fair blue decks.
Yeah.
So that's all we'll say about that. So about the last thing we need to mention here on as far as Legacy goes is Eternal Weekend is the next 2 weekends. Jake, you've got the schedule in front of you or something, right?
Well, this coming weekend, so the 19th and 20th are going to be the Legacies.
The Legacies.
I don't have the times pulled up. I want to say Friday is something like 10 a.m. Pacific Standard. I think Saturday is 1 a.m. Pacific Standard, and I think Sunday is the 10 a.m. So Sunday is the like United States time zone one. So I'm not sure what Friday is.
Yeah, because they kind of break the time zones down so people in different regions and countries can have a decent...
They're meant to hit, I believe, the States, Europe, and the Asia scene.
The intention isn't that people from the U.S. have access to easy access to all 3.
Correct. In the same way that
one very easy one for each major region.
The people in Europe don't necessarily have easy access to the Sunday game.
Yeah.
But, for example...
if you want to play in all 3, you're going to lose some sleep.
On Saturday, I plan on getting up at, I think it's around like 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern Standard in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I plan on getting up at like 2:33 in the morning and playing Magic until, hopefully 3 or 4 in the afternoon, if I do well.
Yeah.
I don't want to play on Sunday, and I can't play on Friday, so.
Now, since we've brought that up while we're on it, you can now buy your entry fees into this, right? And that's with correct. That, you get a God token. Am I correct?
You get a God account.
Yeah, you get a God account.
Yep.
Go over that, Jake.
So for $25 in the MTGO store, there is a Eternal Weekend event token that buys you entry to 1 event. So for example, you could use that token to enter Friday Legacy event. If you want to enter the Saturday Legacy event, you must buy another token.
Yep. So if you want to play in all 3, it's $75.
Exactly. But just buying 1 gives you a God account until I believe December 1st. So you log in.
I think it expires on the 1st. Yeah.
Yes. So you log in, you pay your $25, you buy the token, you log out, log back in, and you will have access to almost every single card in the game. I believe the only things you do not get access to are the unique secret lair cards. So things like Rick, Steadfast Leader, and things like that. But you get access to 99.999% of cards that exist in Magic online. And you get to use those cards, obviously for deck building, obviously for the free queue, but you can take them into challenges, you can take them into leagues, you can do anything you want in them. So what this essentially is this is full proxy MTGO. You get to do whatever you want for a couple weeks, and it is by far, bar none, the best time to get into MTGO and get into any format you want.
Yeah, this would be a great time to be like, wow, I've always thought about picking up Modern.
Yep.
Chuck $25 at it.
Exactly.
Play whatever you want, figure
Yes.
out whether or not you like it or not. And then if you don't, you bail. And if
Yep.
so, you can just pick up your deck and you've played it some.
A lot of things like Legacy and Modern, the best decks are outside of what I would consider the average tier of rental service. I have a middle tier rental service where I can rent up to like 480 tickets worth of cards. And I cannot rent many decks in Legacy and Modern.
Yeah, that won't get you almost any of the
vast majority of them.
Majority of the top 32.
I'll tell you, I'll take it one step further. I own Force of Wills and all the fetch lands on MTGO, and I still can't rent a lot of these decks in their perfect form.
Yep.
So this is as good as it gets to try out anything. Vintage, Modern, Standard, whatever, Pioneer. Pioneer's on MTGO.
Yeah.
Anything. Try out anything. So I highly recommend anyone that's got $25 to spare and 2 weeks to play some Magic. Hop on, get you a token, and you don't have to enter the event. Just get you a token, get a God account, and play to your heart's content on MTGO with some busted cards that are essentially free for 2 weeks.
Yeah, this coming Sunday's challenge is probably going to be, this actually cool. Not this Sunday, because this Sunday is the actual Legacy tournaments. The next Legacy challenge is going to be ugly.
I should cover. So we talked about this coming weekend is Eternal Weekend. So when this episode comes out, like tomorrow would be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Next weekend
is Vintage, right?
Is Vintage. And so now I don't play a lot of Vintage. I do consume some Vintage content, and I've heard some people talking about it. I will say from a third-party view that Vintage is supposed to be in a very good place right now. There's a lot of fun decks.
The outside looking in, it looks
looking in, Vintage is supposedly very good. So I highly recommend.
Been a while since I've heard that. Vintage has had some shenanigans.
You have some problems with the blue Xerox decks just being the best thing bar none, and we're not there yet. And
it's hilarious when we have to talk about decks that are too broken for Vintage.
Yep. So I've heard even that the our guy in Belgium is going to be really excited.
Yeah.
So again, all of this is third party. Like I've things I've heard. So I'm sorry if I suck.
Yeah,
Feel free to message in.
The fact of the matter is, we are effectively priced out of Vintage. There's no way for.
Not online. I have played online. It's fun.
Online, the Power 9 is not.
I still maintain the dream of playing Paper Legacy. I'm not selling my house to buy a Vintage deck. Anyway, supposedly the Xerox decks, which is your blue soup decks, that's what they call it, their Xerox, because they're almost all the same.
Yep. So the stuff running the cantrip
it has
cartel
been split into like 3 or 4 distinctly different Xerox decks, and that is in part what I think has helped the format a lot, the meta, in that. Obviously, there's tons of other decks. There's still Mishra Factory deck, or not Mishra Factory, Workshop decks. There's still Oath of Druid decks. There's still Bug Control decks. And
Dredge still a thing?
Huh?
Is Dredge still a thing?
There's still crazy good Dredge decks.
With Bazaar of Baghdad.
Yes, Dredge is still a thing. And Xerox has been split up so much that really, what used to be the vast majority of the meta, now being broken into 4 different sub-archetypes.
That people seem to be okay with.
That people are eager to play and are doing good has really helped diversify the meta quite a bit. So I've played in a couple Mana Traders events for Vintage. It's fun. If you want to look up, in my opinion, one of the best Vintage content creators that I have consumed is I Am Level 1 on Twitch. He has very good Vintage content. He's one of the best Vintage players on MTGO. He's very active about getting the community involved and helping get people into it. So he writes lots of articles. He does lots of videos on how to play Vintage and what decks to try. I highly recommend you check him out. I can't remember his real world name right now, but I Am Actually Level 1 is his Twitch name. He's everywhere. You'll find him.
That's one of the beautiful things about MTGO is Vintage is just, it's effectively a dead format.
Yeah, it is.
On
MTGO, it's cheaper than Legacy.
So for $25, you could play Vintage for the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's cool. And that's the thing. Vintage seems even scarier to enter for most people than Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to look at it as an online format, and it's going to have all the same problems that the rest of the formats have with Moto. But
I think one of the things that is also very intimidating to people is the absurd power of Vintage.
Yeah, I was getting at that. It has a lot of the same problems, but if you can take away I have to spend $100,000 on a deck, because that just rules out almost everyone, then you're just left with the problem of this is a very powerful, complicated format. Mm-hmm. And that is something that it's one thing to keep people. So it's something I watched a fair amount of Vintage when Paradoxal paradoxical outcome decks were really popular because I saw that card and I just fell in love.
Yeah.
I love that card. It is so cool. It's exactly what I want to be doing in Magic. To me, it's a perfectly designed card.
For people that don't know, PO, paradoxical, which a lot of decks are called PO decks, paradoxical outcome. It's 3 and a blue. I'm gonna off the top of my head, I believe you get to pick up any number of artifacts you control.
Return them to your hand.
You draw a card for each
one.
So that obviously gets incredibly broken once you get things like free Mox. So Mox Sapphire, Mox Diamond, not Mox
all
Diamond,
the Moxes,
Mox Pearl, Mox Emerald.
Yep.
And then
Black Lotus.
There's obviously other things you can be Soul Ring, Mana Crypt. You can be bouncing 4 or 5 artifacts. You're generating mana doing it, and quite often drawing into your next PO.
Right. So
go through your entire deck.
That card is
just
now incredibly cool.
There is the huge stigma that Vintage is a turn 1, turn 2 format, and that's wrong. Are there decks that win
Legacy
on turn 2?
has that as well, and that's also wrong.
Yeah. Like, are there decks that win on turn 2? Yes, there are. Is it consistent? No, it is not. Because all the decks that exist in Vintage, they come prepared to beat the deck that wants to win on turn 2 when it does.
Correct.
Case in point, I pulled up the Vintage Challenge from, I believe, Sunday. Best deck was a white-green stacks deck. So things like Thalia, I believe it has the...
So you're telling me Vintage gets to play fair non-green decks and Legacy doesn't?
Right now, yeah.
God damn it.
Do you know why? Ponder, Brainstorm, Preordain.
They're all restricted.
They're restricted. You get one. Yep. But things like Thalia, Heretic Cathar, Archon of Emeria, Thalia, normal Thalia, Stoneforge, Luminarch Aspirant, Noble Hierarch. This deck...
So it's Maverick with Black Lotus.
It's Maverick with Black Lotus. So this deck in paper, $66,000. On MTGO, 428 tickets.
That's half of what Just Guy Ragavan cost.
Now, in fairness, on this, I've seen some, like, there's a 900 ticket, there's an 800 ticket, but...
We're talking in the realm of Legacy.
Well, I'll say top 8. I'm just going to read numbers. 428, 443, 410, 820, 900, 625, 690. Those are all tickets.
And those are all rentable with a
mid-level
Mana Trader kind of thing.
Those are rentable with, most of those are rentable with mid-level Mana Trader type things, or if you have a medium collection. Like me, owning some forces, owning some fetches, that brings a lot of those really into... And again, a lot of those are also rentable if you cut 1 or 2 cards. A lot of times you'll look at those lists and maybe, like a full set of sideboard surgicals is like, I think $80. 80 tickets. So you can start cutting 1 or 2 cards, weaken your deck a little bit and make a lot more decks rentable. Vintage is fun. Like if you've never touched Vintage, I remember when I started playing online, you see MTGO, you see the Vintage tab, and that's just like, that's the I'll tell you what it felt like. That felt like the red light district where like you don't go there. I can't afford that, and I don't belong there.
I don't play Vintage. Who plays Vintage?
Yeah. Hop online, watch some Vintage content, probably pick up an Oath of Druids deck or a Workshops deck, and have some fun. It's crazy. You do some crazy cool stuff.
You get to do the most broken things you can do.
If you want to get super deep into it, just like, if you're listening to this, whatever Magic format you play, you get super deep into and you learn it amazingly well, you get amazingly better.
Yep.
Vintage is the same. You spend 6 months learning it, you'll be way better off for it in terms of playing Vintage. But you can totally pick up some relatively simple decks, play some crazy matchups, and have a ton of fun. Highly recommend checking out Vintage if you haven't, especially if you've got a $25 coupon to play every single card in MTGO.
Yeah. So we don't talk about Vintage very much on this, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Eternal Weekend's coming up. Vintage is a format, and it's half of the event.
Yep.
Like, Vintage is a real format, guys. Everyone should go out there and check it out, especially when, again, you can pay $25 and play it to your heart's content.
Yep. You'll get curb stomped by some turn 1 Black Lotuses, but you'll also get to go turn 1 Time Walk once in a while.
You get to do it too.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Well, now that we're done with Legacy and Vintage.
Let's
hop over to Modern.
Yep.
We'll spend some time talking about Modern this week. Las Vegas is this weekend. Probably the biggest Modern paper event of the year. Channel Fireball is hosting their essentially GP Vegas. It is not GP Vegas, but essentially.
Yep, and they're not allowed to call it a Grand Prix.
Yeah, but they're having an incredibly large event. A lot of the big names you've seen are going, and I'm kind of excited to see what decks they bring. And I think this is a great week. These challenges are a good opportunity to look at one more time what's good and what, if you're going, if you're going, you should probably already have thought about what you're going to take by now. Heck, it's Thursday when you're listening to this, but I'm excited to see what decks come out of this. This is going to be the first large in-paper tournament we've had for Modern, at least in the country, and I'm excited to see what comes out. So let's start with, Saturday Challenge? First place was Belcher. We talked a couple weeks ago about Belcher coming in the top 8. I think Belcher won a couple weeks ago also.
Yep.
And it's just a cool deck to see. And we talked about, it's time for people to start packing their Belcher hate, and this Saturday reinforces that. Don't sleep on Belcher, guys. It's a thing. It is a difficult combo to interact with, and it has some really powerful ways to power it out early, even though we're in a format that doesn't have any fast mana. Like, you don't have Lotus Petal, you don't have Chrome Mox, you don't have Mox Diamond, you don't have a Simian Spirit Guide. There's still plenty of ways to power this out with things like Strike It Rich, start netting mana quickly. Manamorphose helps you move through your deck quickly, but Pyretic Ritual.
Desperate Ritual.
A big pickup is Ironcrag Feet. 1 red, red, red. You get 7 red mana, which perfectly pays 4 mana for a Goblin Charbelcher and then 3 to activate it. The downside to Ironcrag Feet is you can only cast 1 spell this turn. 1 more spell. But
what spell would you cast then, Jake?
Yeah, if I have
probably
7
the
mana
Charbelcher.
and I only get to cast 1 more spell, I'm probably going to cast this Goblin Charbelcher card that, since I'm running no lands, flips my deck and wins the game.
The coolest card, the one that kind of popped up on my radar from this deck, is Infernal Plunge. I don't know if you've seen this. It's just a one of, but it's Dark Ritual for red, but you had to sacrifice. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yep. And then the Recross the Paths is always that's just the money card you get right there, where 3 mana to reveal your entire library and put it back however you want.
Yep.
Incredibly powerful card. That's one of those that you can't let resolve. Like, you let that resolve, the game is almost certainly over. Right. Unless you can kill them on the untap. So, a cool deck. People put it in your head. Charbelcher's a thing. If you don't think about it, it's going to win more challenges, I promise. So, in the second place, Mono Blue Merfolk, which is really cool.
Hells yeah, boys.
So Merfolk got some definite real help with MH2, and we haven't seen it popping up as prevalently, and I'm really happy to see it become a real contender.
One thing to note, called it Unsettled. Now all 5 of the elementals are seeing competitive play in Modern.
Yeah, it's definitely by far, in my opinion, the weakest elemental.
For sure.
But
the weakest of these incarnations
is still playable.
Still very good.
Is it a it's not a Merfolk, is it?
Nope. The beautiful thing, I think it's probably the best body. Like, if you have to hard cast one to kill your opponent, a 3/3 Flying Flash for 4 is not bad.
Yep.
So
when everything in your deck is blue, I mean, it's a very pitchable spell, and it hits. I'm guessing what's gonna hit a lot of time is your Prime Times and your Murktides. Because Murktide's going to end the game in 2 turns, and Prime Time's going to end the game in 1 turn.
Right.
But
you're just going to hit the things that absolutely cannot resolve.
Yeah, and seeing 4 of them is real. And it's also cool to see the Spellin of Sea and Sky. People were really unsure whether or not that was going to be a real card in this meta, because it is 3, and 3 is kind of like 3 is on the upper end for Merfolk. Like, by the time you're casting your 3 drops, you really want them to be lords that are granting unblockable and giving your guys +1/+1, but Spellin, just with the ability to draw extra cards and protect your guys, I'm not surprised at all that it's as powerful as it should be, as powerful as it is. I'm just happy to see it's pulling its own weight. Yep. The other fun card to see is Tideshaper. There was a lot of talk about Tideshaper. Even in Legacy, people were trying to make it work, because the ability to basically, for 2 mana, for 1 and a blue, because if you kick it, you get to turn one of your opponent's islands or lands into an island and make a 2/2.
So you get to cut the what's that card called?
Curse Catcher.
Well, there's an enchantment that
Spreading Seas.
Yeah, spreading. You get to cut Spreading Seas for a threat,
and so
big.
There's obviously tons of utility in this. Where, I mean, 1, if your opponent's playing islands, it's just a 1 mana 2/2, and that's pretty cool. But it does so much more if you need it to. It locks your opponent off a color if they can't use blue effectively. It also just kills Urza Saga. Yep. It's a 2 mana strip mine for Urza Saga that leaves you with a 1/1. Because once Urza Saga becomes an island, it now has more lore counters than chapters, and it's immediately destroyed. So, we saw some play of it or with it in Legacy. It didn't stick. I'm hoping it sticks in the Merfolk list here in Modern. So,
before we go to third, one quick thing. Look at this. You can buy the top 2 decks in this challenge for just over $1,000
in paper.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. This was not pay to win.
Correct.
On the tournament. I mean,
that's something Jake and I talk about all the time, is the idea that you lost because your opponent spent more money on Magic is ludicrous. Guy's playing a $425 deck in Modern and wins the challenge.
Won the Saturday challenge. And even to rent these, $270 and $235, very rentable. Obviously kind of expensive if you're paying money for fake cards, but very, very rentable.
Well, the nice thing about that, I mean, they're almost easier to sell back than they are
Yeah.
paper. Like,
No shipping.
even if you buy them, you're basically renting them.
Yep. Yeah, they're relatively easy to move,
Yeah.
either to sell them through bots or to sell them through something like Card Hoarder. I've sold hundreds of cards through Card Hoarder, buying and selling.
And they just give you tickets, and you can turn tickets into cash.
Take a bit of a hit. That's what's selling anything, and you get your money out of them almost instantly. Yeah. So third place, Azorius Control. In my opinion, I've been a big proponent of Azorius being one of the most powerful color combinations in Modern, especially if we're going to talk Control. And this is obviously exemplifying that with 4 Solitude as our only creatures, and then basically Super Friend Tribal. We're running all the Planeswalkers we want to play. It's a Fairy Time Raveler because it's just a huge tempo win in terms of shutting things down, bouncing relevant spells. Nothing feels better than, even if I'm on the draw, you play a turn 3, drop a beater, and I go, cool, turn 3, put that back in your hand, draw a card, your turn. And then just on top of shutting down things like Cascade, shutting down counter spells, shutting down end of turn, anything. Like being able to lock your opponent into main phase 1 and main phase 2, very powerful. And then Jace the Mind Sculptor and Teferi Hero of Dominaria to keep the value train going and potentially lock the game out, or not lock the game out, but move towards a victory.
I love a deck that runs 25 lanes.
Yep.
That's
me too. I mean, when I like to play blue-white Control in Legacy, and I run, I think 21 or 22. Which is, for Legacy, is a lot of lands.
And that's the thing. If you look at the list, you don't have anything that we would traditionally call a cantrip. So they're not running Consider or Serum Vengeance or anything.
The closest thing you're going to get is Archmage's Charm, which very often is your draw 2. But yeah, you don't get anything close
you're paying
to Ponder.
3 to draw 2.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to Brainstorm or Ponder.
Yep.
Memory Deluge is pretty close to Dig Through Time sometimes.
Yeah, that's a pretty good card.
So when you get the mana up there, it's pretty cool. It obviously not in this list, but I've seen Memory Deluge works stupidly good with, what's that 3 and a green? You untap your lands at the end of turn? Wilderness Reclamation.
Yeah.
When you start getting into teamier lists like this, it's Memory Deluge feels like cheating when you get to untap your lands at the end of your end step. So tap for 4, untap, tap 3 more, and then Deluge for 7. It's crazy. So fourth place, we've got Mono Green Amulet Titan. It's cool to see Titan come back. He's definitely become a mainstay where he's putting one in the top 8 every week now, but he's not so bad that I don't think anything in him is bannable anymore. He's just a really strong deck.
It's just one of the decks in the format. That's kind of where I think primetime players wanted it to be.
It's your 6/6 is now he's very answerable in many ways. Unholy Heat takes him out. Solitude takes him out. The time it takes to usually get Primeval Titan out, your opponent has time to prepare an answer. And that's why this deck is not just dominating Modern anymore, as it shouldn't.
Yeah, either prepare an answer or just win the game.
Yep. So, but when you're paying 6 mana for something, that's okay.
The funny thing about this to me is there's been a lot of complaining about primetime in the past.
For years.
For years. It even got a card banned, Summer Bloom, the card that lets you play 3 lands in 1 turn, 3 additional lands in 1 turn. Very strong card. Probably needed to go with the time. The funny thing to me is it seems like we didn't need to ban a card. We just needed to wait for Modern Horizons 2 to power creep
everything else.
Yeah. So Primetime's a very powerful deck. We're just going to print some more cards, so Primetime's more in the middle.
Yep.
So he just kind of got, obviously nothing was banned, so I don't like using that word, but he kind of almost got a soft ban where it's just well, you're just not as good as you used to be.
Yep.
It's an interesting result of what's been happening is instead of cards being banned, they're just not very good anymore.
They're not good enough to dominate.
Good. Correct.
Yeah. So we're going long on time, so I'm going to rush through this and hop over to the Sunday challenge. 5th place, 4-color Omnath. That's our $2,000 4-color. Put everything good in one pile. This is not the Ephemerate ETB tribal. This is Super Friends tribal. So Ren and 6, both Teferis and Jace, along with all of your control and removal necessary.
That's a hell of a lot of planeswalkers.
Yep. 13 planeswalkers. Value City. I mean, have you ever looked across a table and seen 2 planeswalkers and not immediately be like, this game is over, I have lost?
Yeah, just go. And a funny turn of events, this deck's running Spreading Seas.
They get 2 activations a turn. I'm done.
Yeah, between some of the most powerful planeswalkers ever printed.
6th place, Hammer Time. It's Hammer Time. 7th and 8th place, 2 Jund lists. Every Jund player is raising their hand in victory because Jund is starting to carry top 8s.
Out.
Yep, Jund is Junding. So good job, guys. I'm going to pop over to Sunday Challenge and try and move through it quickly. There's no reason for these episodes to be crazy long. 1st place, did I tell you guys to respect Belcher? Because Belcher won on Sunday too. Obviously a different person. Respect where respect is due. Bob49 won on Sunday. on Saturday. And then Sunday, ZYX Jerry won. So with a similar Belcher list, I'm going to run through it really quick just to make sure I'm not missing anything crazy, but pretty similar. And, in terms of the meat of the deck is going to be the same. Obviously, the combo, what sets up the combo, and your accelerators are going to be pretty much the same. At a quick glance, I'm not seeing much of anything that's different. This is almost a borderline cut and copy list. The sideboard might be a little different, but Belcher going to Belcher, and Belcher belchered. So,
Sure did.
good job, Belcher. Second place, 4-color Elementals. This is our 4-color Omnath, basically ETB tribal. This one's packing 4 Risen Reefs. So this one...
That's the first card I went to.
Yep. So this one isn't even... is this running Ephemerate? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're still running the Ephemerate package, and we're still running all these cards that we want to bring in, but we're leaning harder into the Elemental side of it with Risen Reef. So, this is one of those cards where there's a lot of upside in that when every one of your Elementals enters and draws a card, you're going to win a game quickly. The severe downside is it's a very expensive, weak creature that requires setup. So that's definitely why I think you see Risen Reef cut a lot, is it's so killable. It's so removable. And putting your game plan back a turn might be backbreaking and lose you the game. But I think it's a great way to mitigate what we've talked about, how these decks are so dirtily. And one of the reasons I think that Burn and Hammer Time have been so good is the best decks in the format have been 4-color ETB Elemental Tribal decks that can take a long time to kill you. And Risen Reef is just one of the best things to do on turn 3 or turn 2 if you have some acceleration, and then just start, pounding in these already really valuable and really these high payoff cards like Omnath, either Omnath, like Endurance, like Muldrifter, like Solitude, and gaining extra cards off of them. So probably a good way for the Elementals package to go over the other Elemental decks, the other 4-color Elemental ETB decks. This is a great way to go above and beyond. When you start getting to where you're worried about the mirror too much, you go up. And this is a good way of going up. Risen Reef is a great way to go up. I'm going to have more cards. It's easier for me to pitch, and it's way easier for me to find my Omnath Locus of the Royal or my Locus of Creation and just bury you.
Back in my day, if we wanted to abuse Muldrifter, we had to pay 4 mana for makeshift mana.
Ugh.
Yeah, and that was all over standard. So these guys are lucky they get Ephemerate.
Yeah, wouldn't you rather just pay 1 white and flip it twice?
Right.
Crazy. 3 mana for Muldrifter, 1 white, and 4 cards. You draw 4 cards.
And have a 2-2.
And have a 2-2 with flying. Third place is, so you hear me say a lot I hate playing against that deck. I don't like that deck. This is by far probably my least favorite deck to play against. The Glimpse combo. This is my least favorite Cascade deck.
I got super excited the first time I saw Glimpse combo. I was like, what? And then I looked into it. I'm like, oh, you're not anything like what I wanted to play.
not wrong Glimpse.
Yeah.
So this is working off of Glimpse of Tomorrow, which has 13 lines of text. Essentially what it does is you take every permanent you own, you shuffle it into your library, and you flip that many cards, and you put those permanents into play. So this is one of those suspend for 3.
Yep.
So obviously you're cascading into it with Shardless Agent or with Violent Outburst. And it's very roll the dicey in that, you flip what you flip, and you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes the decks whiff, sometimes the decks go infinite, and just flip and flip and flip and flip and flip. I couldn't imagine playing this thing in paper because you start getting into where you're while resolving all your triggers from one Glimpse of Tomorrow, you can cast another Glimpse of Tomorrow and have multiple stages of triggers stacked, and you're shuffling permanents in and flipping, and it's bonkers. It's an incredibly good deck. I'll be straight honest with you. One of the reasons I hate it so much is I played against it once and I countered his first 3 Cascade cards and he still won. Or she, I don't know who it was, but I was just so I had the perfect answer the first 3. It might have been 4, and it wasn't enough. They just
keep going.
They just kept going. So
you don't like Cascade.
I don't. I don't. It's very good. It's one of those things that's very good. It feels too good to me. When you build a deck specifically to abuse it. So when you see the bug cascade lists, especially in Legacy, where it cascades into Brainstorm, it cascades into Hymn to Turok, it cascades into maybe an Ancestral Recall. Ancestral Visions.
Well, when you cascade into it, it's Ancestral
Recall, yeah. Those decks I don't hate nearly as much because it's very roll the dicey and it's very you get what you get. These decks that are...
They're somewhat deterministic. They're built to cast Shardless Agent once and hit the card you want.
Aggressively tuned and aggressively deterministic to win the game on the spot. Now, obviously, Glimpse of Tomorrow adds some more dice rolling in there, but the way this deck can just vomit permanents, you're very unlikely to not win the game once you resolve your first one, because you're almost certainly going to resolve a second one. But cool deck, guys. I just don't want to play it, so don't make it top 8 very often, please.
Right. So we've got 3 very good Cascades.
Yes. Yeah. So you've got Crashcade is probably the best, at least most common deck.
Certainly the most consistent.
Most consistent, and by the most consistent and the most like good grindy. There's just a lot of good cards in that. It's consistently good cards. Then you've got your Living End combo, which is a hard combo deck that just the game is over. You untap once you resolve your Cascade. You untap once the game is over because you've put 27 power into play. Probably one of the simpler ones to play. The simpler, more straight-lined Cascade decks. And then you've got the Glimpse combo deck, which is by far the least played. Probably one of the more complicated because you have to resolve all of your triggers correctly. And some of them are simple, but some of them you need to... It's kind of meat pie-ish in that sometimes I
looked at the list. There's plenty of cards that are just good cards.
They're just good cards, and there have been plenty of games I've played against it where the opponent doesn't go infinite, and they get to where they have a bunch of permanents, and you have to find a way to win with these permanents. None of them are backbreaking by their own, and you have to find a way to win while your opponent probably has a board state of some kind.
Yep.
But yes, we have 3 distinct Glimpse decks that are, or not Glimpse decks, but Cascade decks that are very playable. 4th place is Hammer Time. Hammer Time gonna Hammer Time. Worth noting, this is a no Lurrus Hammer Time list. So on Saturday we had a Lurrus Hammer Time. This is no Lurrus. They don't say anything crazy spicy in there. 5th place is your Is It Murktide list. So if you feel like playing Legacy, but you'd rather play with crappy Brainstorms and crappy Force of Wills, you can come on over to Modern and play things like Consider and Serum Visions. And
I think the big thing there was if you feel like playing Legacy, but want to pay $1,300 instead of $6,000, come play in Modern.
That's also one way to look at it. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, a really cool list. It's obviously I love seeing these in Modern because it's a cool list in Modern that isn't oppressively powerful.
Right. That's the thing we always talk about is like clearly, I shouldn't say clearly, but these cards don't seem to be taking over Modern the way they do like.
Yep.
Which makes sense. They were designed for Modern and came out in a Modern specific set.
6th place on Sunday, Belcher. Guys, pack your Belcher hate. I'm not saying Belcher is going to be what you play every week, but
you'll lose to it if you can't.
You will lose to it if you can't.
If you can't interact with it, you're going to lose.
There are enough people that have realized that there's not enough Belcher hate. So until Belcher is stomped into the ground, you got to be prepared for it. And that's going to be, your Force of Vigors, essentially your instant speed artifact removal and your counter spells. That's what you just got to be prepared and you got to be ready.
And count a lot of those. I don't know if you notice, the deck runs 4 main deck Pact of Negation.
Yep.
So that you're going to need 2 of those.
Yes.
Realistically.
It's very ready to...
if they get to basically stack their deck with that Clash card, they're going to have Force of Negation.
At least 1, maybe 2. Depending on how long they can wait.
Right. Because they're never going to pay the 5. They're going to resolve Charbelcher.
Why would you? Game's over.
Dome you for whatever, and then have 2 Force of or Pact of Negation.
So be prepared, guys. Keep it in your mind. Keep it in your mind and keep it in your sideboards, at least for now. And I, going into Channel Fireball weekend, I can't imagine there's not going to be a bunch of people there trying to meme with Charbelcher. Because Charbelcher is in kind of a meme deck. It just also happens to be incredibly powerful and relatively consistent.
Yeah.
So be prepared. 7th place, 5-color Omnath. We've got kind of a mix between our Super Friends and our ETB Tribal. So we've got things like Omnath, Locus of Creation, and Solitude for our end of the battlefield. We aren't running Ephemerate, but we also have 7 Planeswalkers. So tons of removal, tons of counter spells, tons of flexible answers. We got Kaya's Guile and Culligan's Command to interact with whatever permanents we need to and wrap the game up with a Ren and 6 or an Omnath or a Solitude.
You know what this reminds me of? Legacy Check Pile.
I never played against Check Pile. What's Check Pile?
Check Pile was when Deathrite Shaman was still legal. It was a 4-color control deck. And that deck was crammed full of and value. So the big thing, and this is the big thing that makes me think of it, is Culligan's Command with Snapcaster.
Yep.
Being able to cast Culligan's Command, get it in your graveyard, Snapcaster it back, get it into your hand. If you've already got a Snapcaster in your graveyard, you can get it back with Culligan's Command and start this just value train.
Yeah.
That's just
Kaya's Guile.
Strong.
Kaya's Guile is on the same metric there, where you start Snapcastering Kaya's Guile.
We'd actually talked about Kaya's Guile yesterday, and we're comparing it to Culligan's Command.
Yes, it's an incredibly powerful card. It's so flexible. Anytime you see these cards that have 4 lines and almost all of them are relevant. Making a 1/1 flying token isn't crazy, but it's not the worst either. Gaining 4 life, probably not your first choice, but stabilizing is better than dying. Obviously, nuking an opponent's graveyard, that seems pretty relevant. And making an opponent sack a creature. Like, bye-bye Murktide.
Kaya's Guile seems like its floor is a little lower.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely worse than Culligan's Command.
But it's still a very good card.
Exactly. So.
Because, I mean, it's hard to complain when you're comparing a card to Culligan's Command as far as flexibility goes.
Yeah.
That card's nuts.
Yep, sure is.
I actually really like it. I love the fact that Culligan's Command, in my opinion, is very comparable to Cryptic Command. And in power level, where it's just like, I love the fact that a non-blue card got a very flexible instant answer.
Yeah, it just does so much.
That card is very fun to play.
Omnath and Solitude, hopefully probably coming in to help secure the game and end it with Wrenn and 6 and Snapcaster Mage to just generate insane amounts of value.
Yep.
With your Culligan's Command, your Kai's Command, your Kai's
Guile. That could really use Deathrite Shaman.
Your Archmage's Charm. I'm sure it would love it. And your best removal with Fatal Push and Prismatic Ending. A hilarious. I was looking at the the land base for this deck. It's just every one of one Blood Crypt, one Breeding Pool, one Hallowed Fountain, one Water Grave, because it's a 4-color list and just running
reflecting pool
every single dual land it can.
Yep. Couple of the Triomes.
This is one of those where like your mana base is gonna hurt if you want to play stuff this turn.
Yeah.
So if you're watch out for burn.
Yep.
And in 8th place is, again, our 4-color Blink list, $2,700 for a modern deck. Just so you guys know, there are plenty of legacy decks.
That's more than I paid for Elves.
That doesn't count. Like 10 years ago.
But, this is one of the things we're always talking about, how legacy cost is almost as much now as vintage used to cost. Modern is starting to cost. Yeah. Again, on the fringes, not all the decks are like this, but this is how it starts.
Yep.
Modern is starting to be comparable to where legacy was when I started playing Legacy.
I think Death and Taxes right now with Solitudes, like the 80 Death and Taxes 80 card, is like I think $1,300 to $1,400. So a full $1,000 less than this deck. But this is your ETB tribal. Although again, this is kind of mixing between them where we've only got 2 Ephemerate. Now we've got Endurance, we've got Icefang, we've got Omnath, we've got Fury, we got Solitude.
So this deck has a slightly worse companion as far as this goes. So it's running Yorion instead of the other guy that makes it so you have to have elementals.
Gotcha. The Kahira.
So it can run better creatures.
Yep.
So it gets Icefang, Coatl, and Ragavan as opposed to having to have all elementals and you get Yorion. That's interesting.
And it also picks up 8 Planeswalkers with 4 Wrenn and 6 and 4 Teferi.
Finally, somebody with some sense. He's main decked Force of Negation.
Yeah. Well, he's ready to beat Charbelcher.
Only 2. You're going to need more.
Yeah, in your 80 card deck. But so it's that's the kind of that cool hybrid between them where you see some of those Ephemerate decks that are 4 Ephemerate, all the elementals, and that's it. And then you see some of the Super Friends decks that are running 13, 14 Planeswalkers. This is a little more in the middle where you've got 8 Planeswalkers. Although I guess it's an 80 card deck, so those numbers kind of skewed. But so you got a chunk of Planeswalkers. You're still running all of the elementals you can, and Ragavan, and Icefang, and Memory Deluge, Expressive Iteration, just the good stuff in all your colors. Also running 3 Spreading Seas because Wasteland is good even if it costs 2 and they get an island.
Yep.
But it does draw a card, so that'd be a good card. Can we get a Wasteland that draws a card?
And I know it's not in there for this reason, but it does fix your mana.
It can.
It can.
In a worst case scenario, it can. So.
And it cantrips while it does it.
Yep.
It's obviously it'd be awful.
The play pattern is very real of Spreading Seas, whatever, to Fairy, bounce my Spreading Seas, play Spreading Seas again. Yeah. Just to keep generating card value. Spreading Seas gives Teferi an excellent bounce target. Because there are times, you don't want to bounce your opponent's Solitude, clearly.
Correct.
I don't want you to have that back in your hand. So I want to bounce something to get some value, and I want to draw a card because the Teferi Time Raveler is so weak against Prismatic Ending. It's a real risk to throw it out there and tick it up. Because it's very easy to have someone go, yeah, cool, 3 mana Prismatic Ending. Cool. Thanks for wasting your turn.
Yep.
So being able to bounce your own Spreading Seas and being able to generate multiple cards out of that is very good. Sunday metagame breakdown. So your Murktide Regent, is it Dex? 6 in total, 18.5%, almost 19%. Gruul mid-range. I don't think we saw any of those unless it's... Yeah,
so just further down, I think.
Yeah, we didn't see any of those in our top 8, but this is things like Gruul good stuff piles, so Scavenging Ooze. Did you guys know Tarmogoyf was still playable? It might be.
Oh, it's definitely still a very good card.
It's just so
been-
much worse than everything else to be doing in that mana cost for 2 mana.
Correct. Well, you can cast Tarmogoyf or you can cast Murray.
Yeah, which and oddly enough, both of them reward you for filling your graveyard, and one of them rewards you significantly more than the other.
So this is kind of what I was thinking. The Blood Moon, Arbor Elf, Blood Moon. You got to be doing something on.
Now I see it. Yep.
Yeah, unless if you were, you'd just be better off running Jund if you weren't trying to do something.
Yeah. So yeah, it makes sense to
shenanigans.
bring in the Blood Moon and using your Arbor Elf to get turn 1 acceleration.
And Pillage.
And Utopia Sprawl. So Utopia Sprawl allows you to play under your own Blood Moon easily with some basic lands.
Yep. So it's a kind of a Ponza a little bit. It doesn't look like it's fully dedicated to it, but you got Blood Moon and effectively a better Stone Rain. You're trying to turn 2 Pillage them or turn 2 Blood Moon them.
Yep. Then we've got all 3s, Hammer Time, 5-color Omnath, and Azorius Control. Belcher came in with... So there were 2 Belcher decks in the top 32, and both of them were in the top 8. Most played cards, number 1, Counterspell, Force of Will of Modern. Number 2, Lightning Bolt. Number 3, Ragavan. Number 4, Expressive Iteration. Number 5, Dragon Rage Channeler. A lot of those are almost the same as Legacy. Turns out the best cards are still the best cards.
Yeah, any of those sound familiar, guys?
Yep. Top creatures, Ragavan, DRC. Then we have Fury and Solitude. And then Murktide Regent. So, for perspective, the best cards in the format that started in 2000... Did Modern start in 2000,
I don't
2005?
remember exactly.
Okay, so the format that's between 10 and 20 years old, 10 and 15 years old at least, card printed 3 months ago, 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 and another card printed 3 months ago. Those are your top 5 creatures.
Yep.
And top spells, Counterspell, Lightning Bolt, Expressive Iteration, Mishra's Bubble, and Prismatic Ending. So, is Modern good? Yes, Modern's great. Am I more upset about Legacy than Modern when it comes to the prevalence of MH2? Yes, because they shouldn't be in Legacy. They're mucking it up more. Is it maybe a problem that this very eternal format that has decks that cost more than $2,000, the top 10 lists are peaked by cards printed 3 months ago or 2 months ago?
So remember sometime last year where I said I think they're trying to turn Modern into Legacy?
Yeah, very much. The problem is, so the goal. So here, the goal was to turn Modern into Legacy power-wise, but leave the price aspect of it behind. And they're not printing enough cards. It's just becoming as expensive as Legacy. So who knows? Maybe 5 years from now we'll have $300 Shocklands. After
I hope so. I've got a lot of Shocklands.
After Ravnica, I won't be surprised if it's a long time before they put them back in Standard.
Time to advocate for additions to the reserve list. Whatever is in my binder.
No, don't listen to him. We are aggressively anti-reserve list.
More cards on the reserve list.
He's lying. We are anti-reserve list. The Cantrip Cartel does not support the reserve list. So to wrap our episode up this week, let's quickly go through a topic that the Planestalkers discussed on their episode on Wednesday. Or actually, it came on Tuesday, but the idea of proxying cards in both private for fun settings and maybe even high-level competitive settings. You know, they did a kind of a long-form discussion on what they felt about proxying cards you do or don't own, and it kind of got me thinking, we have some similar opinions and some different opinions to both them and each other, and it's a good chance for us to throw our 2 cents into the mix of, should we proxy cards? What does it mean for the format? And should you let other people proxy cards? So to start off with, what is a proxy? A proxy, broadly speaking, is what I'm going to say is fake Magic card. Or
it's a stand-in for a real card.
Any stand-in Magic card. And at the very low end, we would consider this as like a piece of paper where you write Mana Crypt on it and put it in front of a land. Or something you may have seen is someone takes a Sharpie and writes Mana Crypt on a Sharpie. Yep. Or on an island. Yeah. And that's their Mana Crypt. The middle tier is probably somebody prints out either in black and white or color on like an inkjet printer. A picture of what a Mana Crypt is. They cut it out and put it in front of an island or a land in their sleeve, and that's their Mana Crypt. And probably the high-end proxy would be going to something like makeplayingcards.com, ideally using some non-copyright images, like some custom artwork.
Yep.
And putting a Mana, you can use the border of a Mana Crypt and the mana cost and put some cool custom art in there and order for probably a quarter, 10 cents each.
They get a little cheaper the more you get.
Yep. And you can get like a real, like it feels like a real Magic card. It's clearly fake.
Yep. That's one of the things we need to point out before we start.
I clearly want to make a difference between.
At no point do we advocate the use of fake cards that are indistinguishable from Magic cards, even by the naked eye.
Yeah.
Your cards, if you're going to run proxies of any type, need to be plainly not real cards.
Yes, they have to be obnoxiously fake. And by that I mean, so some of the times when we do proxies, we will do, even if we do different artwork, there's no set symbol.
Yep.
I will remove text from the bottom of the card where it has like artist name or whatever. Like
The big one is just using a different back.
I always use a different back. So the back I use is called Proxy the Gathering. But you could look at our cards from 5 feet away and know they're fake.
Correct.
And that's on purpose because there's a big difference between, and what you'll see a lot is on like Wish.com, Chinese counterfeits. And
Correct.
some of them are good.
Yeah, we do not use those.
No, because I don't want more of those to exist, and I don't want more of those to get into the market and people buy them accidentally, because everyone has a story or knows a story of someone who plays with a card for years. Somebody walks up and goes, "That's a really good Mana Crypt proxy." And that person goes, "This isn't a proxy," because they bought a fake card by accident. And someone sold them a $100 fake card.
Yep. And if you, to be perfectly honest, if you don't pull it from a pack and it costs you more than like $50, I would get a jeweler's loop and look at it.
Yep,
there's some, you just look it up. We're not going to go over it today because that's what we're talking about.
You can Google the process of it, and a jeweler's loop on Amazon is like $10.
Yeah, for $10 in about 10 minutes, you can learn how to spot the vast majority of fakes. And if you're buying anything expensive, you should do that.
The alternative is you can go to your local card shop. Your LGS almost certainly is prepared to check the
If
validity.
They're not willing to check, you shouldn't buy it.
Well, what I mean is, let's say
you can have them do it for you. Yes.
If my buddy, or if I pick up a buy you off of Facebook, I can go to my card shop and say, "Hey, I bought this. Will you check?" And they'll look at it, and I won't speak for everybody, but I'll assume they'll look at it and tell you it's real. So yes, don't buy fake cards. Don't buy counterfeits. Buy or make proxies.
Correct.
So with that out of the way, I'll leave it over to Matt, and I'll let him start this. So Matt, what is your opinion on proxies? And do it in order, casual play, like let's say Commander, or maybe like we get together for a home FNM, into maybe higher level competitive Magic, might be playing for money.
Yep. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty pro proxy except for myself. I don't particularly like using proxies unless I have to. We recently played at a Legacy Tournament 2K. In that scenario, I own 100% of Legacy Elves with real cards. I decided to use proxies for my Gaia's Cradles and my Bayous because they cost $1,000 a piece. And this is one of the things that I'm pro proxy for. It's very dangerous to walk around with legacy deck anymore. You could spill a cup of coffee and lose $10,000.
To preface this, the tournament we went to had a 10 proxy limit.
Correct. It was a 10 proxy limit tournament. There were plenty of proxies there.
Matt wasn't cheating.
No, mine were very obvious proxies.
They allow players to bring, and it's to mitigate the costs, to bring a couple fake cards. Yep. And he uses that to mitigate his risk, where if someone were to steal his deck box, or if he spills some water in his backpack, and you ruin your Gaia's Cradles.
Any number of things can happen. Yep. So there's no reason to, if you don't have to, walk out the door carrying $10,000 in a backpack.
Exactly.
So I'm pro proxy. I personally don't like the feeling I get emotionally when I use a lot of proxies. I don't mind using them for cards I own. I don't mind when my opponents use them. I 100% understand that that the formats we play, primarily EDH and Legacy, both get very expensive very quickly. I get that most people don't own 4 Gaia's Cradles. Most people don't own 1 Gaia's Cradle.
Yeah, even for like Commander.
Even for Commander. But that doesn't mean I don't want my opponents to play on the same level as I do. Mm-hmm. I have no issue at all sitting down in a 4-player Commander game and seeing proxy. All I ask is that they look good so they don't detract from the overall experience, because regardless of what anyone says, the appearance of cards, there's a reason the art is so popular. The appearance of cards matters to the experience of everyone. So if you're playing with a basic land that's got, Mana Crypt written on the front, that actively detracts from my experience. If you're playing with a very good proxy, I don't really care.
Yep.
Put some effort into it. You're already getting out of paying $100 for it. You can put some effort into your proxy.
At the very least, it's relatively easy to print out a correct size picture in color.
Yep.
The minimum effort I kind of expect you to do if you want to proxy a card is print out a black and white Cyclonic Rift at the minimum. Realistically, get some color. Get a color Cyclonic Rift, because
you should be using colored proxies.
If I flashed you a decently printed Cyclonic Rift in a sleeve and said I cast Cyclonic Rift and put it down, you might not even notice.
Right.
And if you don't care about proxies, it won't matter. But if I show you my my triangle of paper that I wrote Cyclonic Rift and I misspelled Cyclonic, and I go, I'm casting Cyclonic Rift, it pulls you out of the game. On top of, as soon as someone says, what does that do? Now you're in a whole
now you have to whip your phone out and Google cards. And that's, to me, whenever I'm in any sort of social setting, I don't like creating obligations for the people that I'm around. So if I'm going to play a proxy, if I just write Cyclonic Rift on there, my opponent might not know what that does.
Absolutely.
And now I've put the burden on him to Google it, as opposed to me being able to just show him the card.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, because we're Magic players, there's going to be corners cases and stuff like that. Well, actually, there's plenty of cards where the rules text has changed. I mean, we just had a couple printed. We're not talking about that. We're talking about low effort proxies where you just write. Yep. I mean, some of these cards have, look at any modern set and the cards have 10 or 15 lines of text. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but like, I need to be able to take your card and read it and understand what it does without pulling out a third-party software.
Playing Historic Brawl, which is essentially Historic Commander with new cards, I get reading fatigue. Reading all these new cards I've never seen before, and it's just like line after line after line. And so, at the very least, be prepared that people are going to want to read your cards. I've never gotten mad at anybody for wanting to read my card. That's how Magic works.
Yep.
I don't expect anyone to have a Rolodex of 45,000 cards. I want to be able to hand it to them. This is what it does.
Yep. Now, one of the things, I'm personally not a big fan of using alternative art as far as what my opponents do. So, like, if you're running Primetime in a 4-player game, I know he's banned, but he's just, since we talked about him, I should be able to look across the table and recognize what you're playing because we're sitting at weird angles. You're not just sitting right in front of me. I can't see every single card you have very well. Your cards need to be recognizable by your opponent. And so, like, having weird art that, like, I have no idea what that card is. I'm not a huge fan.
It pulls away a little bit.
Again, all these things this is something Jake and I talked about. There's a huge upside to playing proxies. It comes with downsides. And that's basically what I wish people would realize. It's kind of like the reserve list. I'm a huge proponent of getting rid of the reserve list. It's going to come at a cost. It's going to hurt some people.
Yep.
I'm willing to do that, including taking the hit myself.
Me too.
But the proxy issue is the same thing. There are arguments for why proxies shouldn't be allowed, and I think it's not a good way to argue when you just totally dismiss the other side. There are issues with running proxies. Now, if you can mitigate those to the best of your ability, you should. And that will ease a lot of the issues anyways.
And that's going to come in getting high quality proxies or getting high quality printings at least. Like you print out a nice looking picture that fits well. It's the right size.
Yep. So, and then as far as competitive formats go, I'm 100% on board. Like if we're going to a legacy tournament, playing in paper with proxies isn't functionally different than playing online. We're using stand-ins these are game pieces. When you're talking about competitive play, that's one of the things I wanted to bring up is like the CEDH community is wildly pro proxy. They understand most people aren't going to buy Time Twister, but it's in a lot of CEDH decks. Yep. Same thing with, I think if I remember correctly, Bazaar of Baghdad is legal in EDH. Like there's all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't.
Technically is legal. I mean,
it's just,
Chains of Mephistopheles is legal.
Correct. Either Void, stuff like that. These are all cards that are legal that don't see a ton of play because they're super expensive.
Yep.
So the CEDH community has been CEDH decks they're somewhere between legacy and vintage decks in price. The community almost as a whole is wildly pro proxy.
Yeah. Because it facilitates these games existing.
Correct. They just want to play these games. They don't care that you don't own a Time Twister. And I think the opinion of I think that opinion holds for most legacy players. Yep. Most legacy players would love it, and that's why we also advocate, again, most of us, for the abolition of the reserve list. Yep. I wish legacy wasn't as expensive as it is. To get rid of that would be a huge financial hit to me as far as my collection goes. I'd rather take that hit and have legacy Friday Night Magic.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine if every single week a legacy tournament fired 20 minutes from our house?
Yeah, it'd be bonkers.
That'd be amazing. Pro proxy as far as competitive play goes.
Very much.
And that to me, that's what I got. We were talking about it on Reddit a little bit. That to me is the answer. That's the way forward for legacy. Proxies are the answer.
In Magic in its current state, yeah. With no intervention on Wizards' part, proxy is the solution.
Because you have two things that are true that I think that makes proxies perfect for legacy. One, Wizards has created the reserve list and they won't get rid of it. They stated that a dozen times. Give it up, guys. Two, they don't host sanctioned legacy tournaments.
Yep.
So why are we not using proxies?
Yeah. They have kind of in a minor sense, turned their back on the competitive legacy scene. It is up to us, the community, to keep it going, and we are.
Yep.
We have been for a long time. We can take it a step further and make the cost of entry
as
much,
low
much,
as
much lower.
possible.
Yeah. So I agree with Matt on pretty much everything. When it comes, I'm a little more loosey-goosey on proxies, though, because in my opinion, I just want to play Magic at all tiers. And so talking about especially in like Commander and very casual formats, the idea that Aether Void, is it Aether Void?
Yeah.
Aether Void and Chains of Mephistopheles and like...
Or it's not Aether Void, it's Nether Void.
Nether Void. I thought Aether Void sounded weird. Yeah. Nether Void and Chains of Mephistopheles, like, and you know, is Tolarian Academy legal in?
No.
So,
Thank
God. You know what? Even Gaia's Cradle, like these are not casual cards, and these are like you'd say high salt cards.
Yep.
And so that's where you have to communicate with your play group. That gets harder when you play at a store with randos. But you got to communicate with people, and as long as we're all on the same page, I don't care, because I want to play against Nether Void. I want to play against Chains of Mephistopheles. I want to play against those decks of that power, or at least of that like uniqueness. And I really don't care if it's real or not. I want to experience the board state that card creates. So, you know, anytime you're trying to catch your friends off guard or catch noobs off guard at the local
you
shop,
shouldn't be pub stomping.
Then you're somewhat in the wrong. You know, that's trying to soak up all the fun out of other people is probably not the way you should play Commander. But as long as we communicate it, and it's, you know, and I want to play CEDH, and 3 people that are at the shop tonight, they brought proxy CEDH decks. Obviously, they don't own any. What's that? What's the seal card? What's the 1 black Vampiric Tutor? But it's a seal, Imperial Seal.
Imperial.
You know, they don't own Imperial Seal. They don't own Time Twister, but they printed out some decent looking proxies, and they put the deck together. And now I get to play my borderline CEDH deck. Like that's why I'm so pro proxy. Is while there definitely are going to be instances where, unfortunately, you sit down with your level 6 deck and somebody goes, you know, Dark Ritual into Lotus Petal into Nether Void turn 1.
Something stupid.
Like that's going to happen, and that really sucks, and I'm sorry. That's a downside. I think the upside is like you get to experience these cards that exist. And like, so for perspective, for the vast majority of people listening to this podcast and the vast majority of people that play Commander in general, Nether Void isn't a card.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate because Nether Void is a cool card. It's a good black card. It's a great way to help curb like heavy combo decks or like Stormy style decks or really go wide decks if you're in black.
If you don't know what it does, it basically makes everything cost 3 or more.
Yeah,
it makes everything cost 3 more.
Well, it's somewhat important. It's each spell is countered unless you pay 3. Right. So if you can get uncounterable, obviously you can get around that. But like, it's an interesting card that, for all intents and purposes, doesn't exist. I don't like that. I want that card to be in people's repertoire. Now, if you get a personal play group where you can start curating that list even further, that's ideal. So case in point, we had an in-house ban list.
Yep, we just added a couple cards that we found. They
detracted.
They just detracted from the overall experience.
Exactly.
That was what? Cyclonic Rift, Tooth and Nail, and Armageddon.
Yes, we decided these cards.
And any functional, so like Armageddon, Ravages of War.
Ruination. Well, Ruination is not basic, but yes. So if you have the ability to curate that with your friend group, that's, in my opinion, I don't understand why groups that play regularly together don't play proxies. Because if you guys want to sit down every Saturday, every Sunday and play Magic, you can easily say, Derek, stop playing Nether Void.
Right.
We don't want that. You can proxy every Mana Crypt you want. You can proxy every Rhystic Study you want. Stop playing Nether Void. And you can create that in-house ban list to ensure the fun of the group. It gets weird when you play with random people at the shop, because that's where it starts getting weird, trying to, avoid pub stompers.
My solution to that is, I would 100% recommend to everyone, never play EDH with strangers. It's
a worse
awful.
Experience. It is.
It's just awful.
I would take a step back from that. Maybe play with strangers, but never be afraid to exclude strangers from your play group. Where, I mean, if I go to the shop and I play with Matt and we play a game or two and Matt's not a fun person to play Commander with, that's fine. Matt, you can enjoy Commander however you like, just not with me.
Yep.
And so if the game involves Matt, I will politely step out and you guys can play, or we can play without Matt. And that's either going to make it, either you're going to find that you're the only person that hates how Matt plays, and maybe you should change how you play or find a new scene, or Matt will realize nobody wants to play with him and he should change how he plays or find a new scene.
I think the one thing that you and I probably would disagree on, and maybe not given what you just said, all of that is true. And I think the anti-proxy players also have the right to say, like if there's 4 of us and one person doesn't like proxies, I don't think you should play proxy because you are fundamentally breaking the rules of Magic. I think if we're all agreeing to break the rules, then we can all break the rules. But you should have cards to replace your proxies in case you run into people, especially out in the wild. In case you run into people who are like, I'm not okay with you proxying Gaia's Cradle.
That's an interesting concept.
Not fair.
Like, do you think should a 4-person pod be fully democratic? Like, if 3 vote yes and 1 votes no, is that no ruled out? Or does it take 1 no to say no proxies?
In this particular case, like I said, I think it's different when you're like working with things. For example, like if it was me, you, Mike, and Alex, and one of us vetoed proxies, I think we shouldn't have proxies.
If it's a very like closed group,
because it's just again. It takes everybody to decide we're not playing with the rules anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you're in a game store and me, you, and Alex go to the game store and one guy says we're not allowed to play proxies, guess what, dude? Yeah. You're not.
You can find
we're going to play with proxies. You can do whatever the hell you
want.
Next
pod over.
But like, I also like if it's just 4 strangers, I think 4 strangers should all have to be in agreement to have
fair.
proxies.
That seems
so if you
fair.
have proxies in your deck, you should probably bring some alternatives. Yep. And for example, Gaia's Cradle. Okay, I don't get to play with my proxies Gaia's Cradle. I can either A, slot in a real one, or B, pop in a basic forest.
Exactly.
Like it's not, the burden is on you when you want to do something that is in most circumstances not allowed. You're playing with fake stuff. We're here to play with official game pieces.
Yep.
So unless that is agreed upon by all of us, I think the burden should be on the proxied players, especially given the cost of things. Like if I show up with real cards, why do you guys not get to? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
So if we all agree to show up with proxies, great. But if
that's a common argument I hear is that, you know, if I paid for all of my cards, I worked hard, I spent weeks or months saving up for my Underground Sea, why does Matt get to print one out on a printer and just have the same joy?
Here's the reality that I think people need to accept. If everyone proxies, we don't have Magic. Wizards exists to make money.
Yes.
And I understand that the things in general, people are proxying. Wizards isn't directly making money off anymore.
Yeah.
But the attitude of proxies has to have a line.
Yeah, there has to be a limit.
Because there has to be a limit to proxies or Magic doesn't exist.
If every new set comes out and we all just print out copies of the cards, no one buys any. Not enough people buy any.
You shouldn't be proxying standard decks. To be 100% honest, if you can't pay for your standard deck, either play limited or find a different game.
Yeah.
Magic's probably not for you.
Yeah,
if you're not willing to pay any money at all to play it.
In my mind, I kind of relegate proxies for like, we'll say cards that cost from maybe like $40 and $50 up.
Yep. This is the slippery slope that happens. Is as soon as you start to say proxies are okay, people just stop buying cards.
Yeah.
A lot of people just stop buying cards.
That's a very good point. So that could be a rule you institute in your group. Where
that was the thing I liked about that tournament. 10 proxies. You have to have some skin in the game to show up at this tournament.
You have to.
But you can, proxy Underground Seas.
Yeah, what we're talking about. So we moved into competitive. I'm with Matt. I'm 100% okay with proxies in competitive. I do like the idea of requiring some investment into this, because one of the things it kind of does even standard, it keeps really shitty people out of the tournament.
Out of the tournament.
Bad actors out, because even if your deck only costs $150, that is a barrier to entry that will keep a lot of people that you don't want to play with out. And I don't mean people that are rules lawyers or that play slow or they're just net deckers to win. I mean people that are genuinely out there to just make everyone's life worse.
Correct. This may be apocryphal, but there was Kevin Smith, the director, used to have a forum that everyone was on, and it was just being bombarded with trolls and bots and whatnot. He put on like $1 charge to have access to the forum, and it all disappears. Yep. Literally, as soon as there is any cost to getting in, most of the bad actors go away.
The people that are only interested in tearing it down
will go somewhere else. Yep.
And so that's where these, if you allow 10 proxies, 20 proxies, whatever, your deck can be relatively cheap, but you still have to put some money into it. You have to buy the cards, you have to get them, sleeve them. That is enough barrier entry to hopefully get
it keeps most people out.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps
most of the bad actors
the
out.
Worst out.
Right.
So, that's the argument against full proxy, and the argument against also is that we do need Wizards to make money.
Yep.
Because I want them to keep making cards. But relatively, we agree pretty consistently on, our opinion on proxies.
Yeah, the biggest thing with me is understanding that there are almost always two sides. There are very real arguments against proxies, and at the very minimum, you should know what they are and know how to counter those arguments.
Yep.
And there are downsides. I think on net, for the things we're talking about, proxies are a good thing.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's where we would definitely agree.
In the vast majority of situations,
Correct.
That is a net benefit for the community at large.
Yep.
Well, Matt, this is a relatively long episode. We're getting well past where the end should have been.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to cover this week for magic?
I think at this point, I'm just going to start reading from the dictionary.
Well, I'll tell you
right?
what.
We've hit everything else.
Let's go ahead and we'll spare the listeners from that. We are Cantrip Cartel. We were super happy to talk to you guys this week. If you want to reach out to us, feel free to hit us up at our Gmail, cantripcartel@gmail.com. Hit us up on our Facebook group. It's just Cantrip Cartel at Facebook. And we're trying to get our Twitter going at Cantrip Cartel on Twitter. Trying to post our episodes, post some deck links. So check us out there. Reach out to us. If you ever have any questions, we'd be happy to read them on air. We would answer them on air or answer them privately if that's what you like. We love seeing any kind of feedback from you guys about
any sort of topic, suggest anything you want to hear us talk about, anything at all.
What you like, what you
magic
don't like.
related.
I mean, if you'll throw any constructive criticism our way, I will consider it. If you want to be a troll and a jerk, you are well within your rights to do that. I probably won't enact much change on it. But if you reach out and you want something changed or you want to hear something different, let us know. And I'll try to work it in if I can. Be sure to check out the Planestalkers podcast. Like I said, they do record live on Twitch on Mondays, and those usually come out Tuesday or Wednesday for your podcatchers. And they also do their Commander Craft on Wednesdays. They do that every Wednesday. The big thing is next Wednesday, the 24th, Matt and I will be on for a special hosts-only Commander Craft, and we're really excited to do that. I built a brand new deck. I think Matt's got some stuff jumbled around. He's going to put together a new deck. That's going to be on Wednesday around 7 Eastern Standard Time at the twitch.tv/Planestalkers. We'd love to see you come check out and, see who wins.
Yep.
Other than that, is there anything I'm forgetting?
I think we got it.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week.
All right. Have a nice night, guys.
Oh, I'm going to cast Iron Crag Feet. I use 4 of the red to cast Goblin Charbelcher and then 3 to activate it.